Hey everyone, Jason Lawrence here. We're going to continue our video series on Guide to the Home Building Galaxy. In the last video, we talked about how long it takes to build a home and a couple of things to kind of account for in the build, but a realistic build time. And really what to summarize that, it ends up being anywhere between, on average, I would say 12 and 15 months, depending on if it's, a semi-custom home to a custom home. If it's something more modular or simplistic, it can definitely be less than that. But for at least me and the clients that we're building for, that's about what we've got. So in this video, I want to cover what needs to happen before the home building starts. I know for most of the clients that I deal with and work with, the time period between them committing, giving us a down payment, and then starting the house, and so you're kind of like chomping at the bit to get started, and you're thinking about the future and the fact that, maybe my lease is going to run out before the home gets done, or you're thinking about selling your home scenarios, all kinds of things like that. So it's best, if possible, to try and get a lot of these things out of the way before you get to the point of having the bank start the construction loan. That kind of signals that, okay, we've got a building contract. I know that's a milestone with a lot of people, and maybe it's just because it's something that you hear a lot, but it is kind of a milestone. Okay, we've got a building contract. We've committed to the builder. We've got a contract. The contract is now at the bank, and then once you close on the construction contract, which is typically 30 days from the time that you give everything to the bank, sometimes 45 days, but then at that point, you pretty much have the free and clear. The builder has the free and clear to start building. Once you close on the construction loan, the builder has access to all the funds, so everything should get underway, right? Well, only if everything else is in place. And again, I'm going to go back to, it can be really, even at that point, now you've closed on your construction loan, the builder's not starting the home for another month, 2 months, depending on certain scenarios. So now you're just really starting to get antsy. That's a really good way to describe it. And then once the shovel hits the ground, once site work starts, then it's like it all, I think for the most part, melts away. You see progress out there. You have more peace of mind. But in order for the builder to start, aside from you closing on your construction loan, which, yes, that is a huge important step, there's a series of other things that have to happen. So we'll kind of go back to the beginning. You started working with the builder. You got pricing from the builder. You picked out a floor plan. You got to the point where blueprints were drawn up. So with the blueprints, those blueprints need to be finalized. So you have to be signed off on those blueprints and saying that, yes, I am good with everything that's shown here. I'm not going to make any more changes. There might be changes that you make down the road. We're a custom builder. We get all kinds of changes that happen, but we need to actually have the customer approve the plan before we start and say, yes, this is the the blueprint that we're building off of. We're good with everything here. Because otherwise what can happen is if something gets built and the homeowner did not approve the blueprint, they can always go back and say, well, we never approved this, even though we had it. So that's just something between the builder and yourself that needs to take place. So those blueprints need to be finalized. And kind of coinciding with that, when the blueprints are finalized, that helps with the pricing of the home and the home price being finalized. So before the bank can start their process, they need the blueprint and the building contract. So we've talked about the blueprint. You need those blueprints finalized and approved so that the builder can essentially kind of put those into production. They need to make lots of copies of them. They need to send them out to a lot of people, and they don't want to do that if the plan isn't correct or is still going to be changed. Now, as I'm saying all these things, myself as the builder, these are still like lessons for me too, because it's not like this is just an automatic. So you as the customer, if you're watching this video, you can kind of hold your builder accountable somewhat. And, you know, because it's not just an automatic that the builder is going to, here, you approve the plans before I move forward. They may just assume everything's good with it. They may move forward, and then all of a sudden something happens. So as you're watching this video, these are things to keep in mind. And I'm going to reference my my guide to the home building galaxy that I have available so that you don't have to remember this stuff. It's something that you can bring with you to your builder meetings. You can use throughout the entire process. It's used to you know, keep you accountable, keep you in check with everything, keep track of everything, and it's going to have everything that I'm talking about here. And I'll put the link for that in the description of the video. But you want to make sure those blueprints are finalized, and the pricing is based off of the blueprint somewhat, right? Pricing is based off of the blueprints and then what you have going in the home, and then what is outside of the home, what type of site improvements are needed there. So if you got the blueprints out of the way, perfect. Now the next thing would be the pricing. You want to verify the pricing before it gets turned into a building contract and goes to the bank. Now, again, this isn't something that automatically the builder is going to, you know, hey, I went through everything again. I went through the blueprints. I went through all of your site improvements. I went through all of your selections. And oh, by the way, you don't have a certain selection here, so I estimated for this. There may not be any of that banter, we'll say. You know, the builder may just want to move things forward, and they're just going to take what they've got with the pricing so far. You've approved it. You're good with what's there, and now they're going to turn that into the building agreement so that they can get it to the bank. Well, you as the customer, you want to make sure that building agreement, that final pricing, accounts for all of the expenses that are going to happen during construction, right? You don't want to sign a building agreement for $600,000 and then by the time you get done with everything, you had to pay another $50,000 out of pocket, which you weren't planning to do. You know, now if you're cool with that, you can just tell the builder, hey, I don't want my construction contract to be more than this amount. Anything we're doing above and beyond that, we'll pay for out of pocket. But still, even if you're doing that, I would want to know. I would want to kind of make it through my rounds, do all of my selections, make sure all the site improvements are accounted for so that I still knew the true cost before moving forward. So many times, and so many different builders are just going to, you know, they once you sign on the dotted line, once you give that deposit, you really don't have a lot of recourse. It's hard to turn around and walk away. So if you think everything is great and accounted for, and the builder really, not that they don't care, but they don't maybe care necessarily that everything's accounted for. They know they'll get it from you. They know they're going to get the payments from you. Like once you actually get in to the nitty gritty and you find out that, oh, these cabinets that I wanted are not within my budget, of course you're going to want to do those cabinets. This is the one time that you're building. And so the builder knows that they're going to get paid on that, but you as the client didn't know, and it's good to know that ahead of time. It helps. You can save money that way. You can stick to a budget that way. It's just a more stress-free, no surprise type process. So make sure that pricing is verified. And I do have in that guide to the Home Building Galaxy, I do have a price verification checklist in there to make sure that everything that should be accounted for is accounted for. Now, I doubt a lot of builders have this as a requirement in order for them to move forward with your build, but selections, the selections, and you know, we do this 90% of the time. There's still 10% that slip through because of certain reasons, but we pretty much have a policy that the selections have to be done before we go in for the building permit. Even if you're closed on your construction loan, doesn't matter. The selections need to be done before we go in for the building permit. Now, as of more recent, we have actually made our policy, the selections need to be done before we finalize the building contract. If all of the selections are accounted for in the building contract, it's a much smoother process for yourself, for the builder. And again, your pricing, your contract is now based off of the exact cabinets that you picked for your house, the exact flooring that's going into your house, the exact countertops that are going into your house. Wouldn't you want to have an accurate price before you sign a building contract with a builder? Don't you want to know exactly what that price is? I would, I do, and I know most people feel the same way. So blueprints, number one, make sure that pricing is verified via selections, and just make sure everything that's shown on the blueprint is accounted for in the pricing. If there are things that you talked about with the builder and you think, because you talked about it with the builder, that they're accounted for in the pricing, don't just assume. If it is not spelled out there, if it is not shown on the blueprint, it's not accounted for in the pricing. That's the way that you need to think about it. The other thing that goes into verifying that price before finalizing the contract are all of the site improvements. Now, these are things that you don't, you've got some control there, as in you can let the builder know, hey, I want to make sure that we're budgeted properly for, the length of my driveway. And we've got everything accounted in there for my driveway based upon how far back off the street I am. Same with sewer and water laterals, or septic and well, whatever that may be. Same with gas and electric. I want to make sure, based upon how far back I am, that all of these site improvement amounts are accurate for me. I want the building permits to be accurate for me, not just a basic allowance that we use, that we put in there for the building permit line item and every pricing. I want this stuff to be accurate. I do not want to have additional expenses on items that can be controlled. Quite frankly, there are some things that, if the builder's digging the hole, they may get down into the earth, and there could be some unexpected causes because of bad soil or what have you. And some of those things are unavoidable, but there are a lot of things that are avoidable. There's so many things that really can be investigated ahead of time, and you can get exact price. Okay, what is the septic going to cost here via the septic contractor? How much is this, 250 foot long driveway going to cost via getting a price from the excavator? So there's a lot of these things that can be verified to get exact pricing in there. So you want to make sure that pricing is verified before you go in for the building permit. I'll do a whole nother video specifically on verifying the price, but verify the price before you sign the building contract. That verification includes the blueprints, the site improvements, and the selections. Do those selections before you finalize the contract. It'll make everything go much smoother. Well, now that you've got a building contract and it's accurate per the selections that are going into your house, oh, that feels good. Because now this price that I'm looking at, it includes everything. There aren't going to be hidden costs and surprises to pay for out of pocket. You've got your site improvements figured in there. Everything on the blueprint shown there. So you're good to go now. Now again, bank takes it. You close on the construction loan. You're closed. All right, let's get going. Well, there's still something else that needs to take place before you can get started. So now everything that you've kind of done on your end and that you have the most control of is done. And great job for doing that. But there are a couple of other things that need to happen before the builder can start. Survey work. So this may be real easy, or it could be really complicated depending on where you're building. If you're building in a subdivision on a 100-foot wide by 150-foot deep lot, and there's already predetermined setbacks and side yard setbacks, it's real easy to place the house on there. Boom, it goes in the middle. You make sure you're not encroaching into any of the setbacks or the easements, and you're good to go. You can take a look at that survey. Make sure you verify the survey. So you'll take a look at that survey and you'll say, yep, I'm good with the home placement. The builder can send out the surveyor to stake out the foundation. And then at that point, the builder is they need that stakeout survey in order to go in for the building permit. Now, it can be really complex if you are on a hilly, wooded lot. There may be some tree removal that's needed. This may involve, a surveyor coming out to the site and doing a topographical survey, and then rough staking where you think the house should go, and then having somebody come to clear trees, and then the surveyor comes back to restake, where the house is finally going to go. And then based off of the hilliness and the topography of the lot, that's going to determine, how high out of the ground the house needs to be, where it needs to go. So that we just had a survey process that they were closed on their construction loan, and we just started the house last week because of kind of that same thing. We didn't start survey work until they were closing on their construction loan, and it's a hilly lot, it's a wooded lot, so it involved a lot of meetings out at the lot to make sure that everybody was happy with the home placement. There were certain trees that they wanted to save, and so it involved, I think, like 6 meetings out at the property with the excavator, with the tree removal guy, with the septic person, with myself, just to make sure that we got the house where we needed it to be. And then because the house was hilly and it was going to have daylight exposure, so, like full-size windows in the basement, we had to make sure the house was positioned properly. So we angled it and re-angled it a couple times. We moved the house a couple times, and this all involved the surveyor coming out, putting like 4 stakes in the corner so that you, the customer, can see where it is based off of the survey drawing. And then you can go out there and say, well, I don't know if I love this placement. I want to have it moved over a little bit. And then having them come out to restake it. So again, you can see the physical home placement on the property and approve the placement. So I guess what I'm getting at there is that survey work can take a couple months to do. So get that started as soon, especially if you have a lot that is not in a subdivision. Get that started as soon as possible. That survey is going to be needed to get the building permit. Now, in some areas, depending on if you're on a property that's part of a homeowners association, or if there's an architectural control committee for the neighborhood that you're building in, they're going to need that survey as well. They're also going to need blueprints, and they may need selections, and they may need a ton of other stuff as well. Most of the neighborhoods in our area require a survey and a blueprint. Some of them will want selections, and they'll actually want samples, and that's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is, something that they want sometimes. Now, there are other areas, Texas, for example, we're going to be got something going on there, but there is a homeowners association for this particular property, and it's like a 50-page application. There's all kinds of stuff that they want. It's going to take a long time to just get through this architectural control committee process. So that's something that the builder, you'll want to maybe let your builder know ahead of time. If you're in a neighborhood where there's a homeowners association, let your builder know that, like, hey, you're going to have to get the architectural control approval on this so that it's something that they can plan for. In some places, you can't go in for a permit without having that. In other places, you can go in for the permit, but you technically aren't supposed to start until you get that approval. So that's something to be aware of. Sanitary permit. If you are not going to be hooked up to sewer in most areas, and in mine, it requires getting a sanitary permit. And that process can really be started, as soon as there's a basic survey. The septic contractor, and maybe there's already a soil test done for the property, that streamlines it even more. Then the septic contractor just needs to really go in for the permit. He needs to know how many bedrooms. He needs the customer's contact info. If you're building on a piece of land that has not been tested yet for a septic system, that's something that they can't do it year round. They can't do that if the ground is frozen. So depending on where you are, that's something to be mindful of, because you can't get the sanitary permit unless he's done the soil test on the property. And at least where we are in Wisconsin, in order to go in for the zoning permit and then the building permit, we need to have the sanitary septic permit, and that typically takes about 30 days where we are. So that's something that I like to get started. If we've got a contract going into the bank, I want to make sure that I've got the sanitary stuff rolling, so that by the time they close on the construction loan, the sanitary permit's ready. And then we can, if everything else is in line and in order, we can go in for the zoning permit and the building permit. Zoning permit. This is something that needs to be obtained before a building permit in most areas. The zoning permit is going to be issued by the county that the home's being built in. They are going to be looking at the survey and your location of the home in relation to other things. They're basically approving the location of your home, and then from there you can go into the building inspector and get the building permit. One little golden nugget here to make sure your builder is aware of, because we as a builder don't even know until we go in for the zoning permit, and then this causes a huge delay. Shoreland zoning. So if in Wisconsin, if we are building within 1,000 feet of a lake, a stream, and the definition of a stream isn't much. I mean, when it rains a lot, if you've got a little trickle of water that runs across your property line, that could be designated as a stream. There could be a man-made lake. So not a normal lake, almost like a big pond located within 1,000 feet of your lot. And if that's the case, you have to get a shoreland permit, which takes 30 days. So we've had this happen a few times where we're ready to go with everything. They're closed on the construction loan. We've got the sanitary permit. Everything is staked out. We're ready to go in for the building permit. So we're thinking, all right, we'll be digging in a couple weeks as soon as we get the permit back. And then all of a sudden, here to find out, we go in for the zoning permit and they say, well, you're within 1,000 feet of a stream, a river, or whatever it is, and now you need to get a shoreland zoning permit. That adds a whole nother month to the process. So that is something that you can look into before you even talk to a builder, so you can give the builder a heads up. Like if you own your property, you can call the county and say, hey, when we come in for our zoning permit, when we come in for our building permit, I just want to make sure there's nothing near me that's going to require us to get a shoreland zoning permit. And you can, scratch that one off before things even get too far down the road. All right, so those are all the things that need to happen before the builder can actually start. In that last video, we talked about the timeline of how long the build takes. And, before the builder can start, everything that we talked about there, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, those things can be done while other things are going to be getting done. So it's not like, oh, it's a month to get a building permit. It's 2 months to get blueprints. All the stuff we just talked about is a combination of 2 months. Well, the stuff that we just talked about, survey work, the sanitary permit, those things can be getting done while, blueprints are being finalized and while the construction loan is being processed. So it's not like you have to wait for each one of those things to happen, but those are the things that need to happen in order for the builder to be able to start the home. And I know that's just something that most people have no idea. When they come in, they just think, okay, once I find the plan and we finalize the plan, we finalize the price, we put our building contract together, it goes to the bank and we get started. Well, yes, but then everything we just talked about is kind of salted in between and needs to be taken care of as well. So that's all I've got for this video. Again, check out that ebook that I have. I'll have that in the details below. As of right now, I'm still working on finalizing that, but as of right now, I do actually have a course that kind of goes through all of this, that includes that handbook as well. But there's a video series where I specifically talk in detail on each one of these things with the book, the handbook, the guidebook, the worksheets to kind of go along with that. That info will be below as well. Thank you so much for your time and watching. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe to the channel and you're looking for more home building videos, then please subscribe. Take care. God bless.